The white is often caused by clay. So when a rock is altered to clay, kaolinite, it's really bleached like this white. So why don't each of you pick up a little white pebble, put your tongue on this. And if it sucks at your tongue, it has a lot of clay because the water gets pulled. The water gets pulled into the interclay layers. So put your tongue on it. It'll pull at you. It'll suck your tongue.
Yeah.
The main audience we designed these trips for is the general public, because it's very important that they understand the science behind what they're reading in the media, such as how tsunamis form, the effects of climate change on our world, and the science behind the policies that affect environmental issues. And we do this by having a scientist travel with us to be there answering questions every day, as well as working with the park scientists doing actual research in the park on topics relevant to the policies of the park.
There's a famous quotation that I learned a long time ago. In a democratic society where individual choice actually matters, where we vote on issues that affect education and the way our society is run, it's highly important for our citizens to have general education. And part of general education is learning about science. So when a referendum comes up or a vote on issues of what we should teach in the classroom, I think it's really important for voting citizens to understand the way science works and what science has taught us.
It's so exciting because Ron takes us on places that are, that are hard to get to sometimes. He gives us special experiences with park personnel and geologists. There's a geologist on the trip, goodness sakes, and I'm in his car. So anytime I want to ask something about a rock, he's right there. The information is very wonderful.
John is fantastic. I'm the sort of guy that can, let's see, what's the nicest way to say it? I can be a little bit of a pain in the butt because I want to learn as much about everything as I can. And John is absolutely fantastic. One, he's extremely knowledgeable. Two, he has a personality where everyone gets along with John. And he really makes you feel comfortable in asking your questions, that you're not putting him out. So he is a great resource. Ron seems to have a knack for finding the right people to go on the trips.
John's presentation was amazing. It was right at the correct level for the audience. You understood that he knew everything that he was talking about, but he explained it in a way that we could all relate to.
Participants on the Yellowstone trip had the opportunity to spend the day with Dr. Rosalind Brain of the Yellowstone Institute.
The guides that went with us today were amazing. Our main guide was Rosalind Brain, working with the Yellowstone Institute. She was extremely knowledgeable about the entire park. Also, she got in contact with a wolf biologist, Rick McIntyre, and he let us know where wolves were sighted today, and we were able to actually observe 3 wolves. It was absolutely amazing.
It's been really good working with people with science background because I can also glean from you, your background and your knowledge level, and then build on that with myself. So it's like we're both teaching as we're out here, which is very exciting, and that doesn't usually happen for me as I take groups into the park. It's usually very basic information, so this gives me a chance to really test my knowledge level with these animals and the geology here. The problem with being out in a big 2.2 million acre park is that it's very unpredictable what wildlife you're going to see, and so I can never guarantee if we're going to see a bear, if we're going to see a wolf, but I would really say we've had a great morning so far. Wow,
we've seen just about probably anything that you would expect to see, and probably more on a trip like this.
We found 2 eagles and an osprey.
Badgers.
God, I don't know how many wolves we saw.
Bison, elk.
More bear than we could possibly expect to see.
A grizzly bear.
Oh my gosh, wildlife abounds. It's wonderful.
We have a variety of guests. Some are teachers, some are the general public who might have forgotten their basic geology lessons from grade school or whatever. But the key thing is they're all interested in science, and many people have forgotten some of the stuff they learned. So I try to teach at the basic level and then work it up and keep everyone on the same level. They're really interacting really well, all bonded by the interest in science. And some of the teachers brought out some kits to measure the pH, and I was surprised that one of the springs was basic. I had not known about that. So that's something I'm going to have to go back and research. We were debating, one of our guests is a chemist, and we were talking about what causes the different levels of pH, and I was stumped by that. So I gotta research that a bit more.
The main goal of Science in National Parks is to give people an experience in the park that they can't get on their own. We see the touristy parts of the park, which are fun. However, we also explore parts of the park with the park scientists that most people don't even know exist. Those who came on this year's glacier trip got to train with the Crown of the Continent Research Center on how to help the park track its mountain goat population.
Yesterday we went to a place called Autumn Creek. It's pretty much woodsy. There's maybe a 1 or 2 foot path to walk on. The rest is just brush and flowers. We stopped at a mountain, I think it was Elk Mountain, and there were about 12 mountain goats up on it. We just kind of sat there, watched them with spotting scopes. And this is really different from a trip you would take on your own or through a travel agency, because yesterday at Autumn Creek, that's a place that very, very few people really even know about. Nobody really ever gets to go there. So it's unspoiled, there's no litter, nothing. It's just natural, it's just backwoods forest, and that's what's great about it. You're seeing something that not really many people have ever seen before.
After a whole day of training, participants went out to do the actual study.
We are doing mountain goat research. We're trying to see how many are up here, where they are, and what they're doing. I'm enjoying looking for goats. I enjoyed the hike. We actually saw a goat just kind of chilling out on the way here. That was pretty neat. And just the scenery. The scenery is amazing. It's been a fun day. It's a long hike, but it's worth it. It's really worth it.
And I learned a lot about the animals that I didn't know before, and I also got to see them exhibiting behaviors that I previously wasn't even aware of, like the anti-parallel circle fighting, which sounds really funny, but was really exciting for me to see in person, and it's definitely not something I would have seen on my own. We definitely needed help being pointed out where the mountain goats were, and then being part of the survey was, I felt like we were really contributing to the park, and we were learning a lot through that, and that's definitely something I would have never known about if I didn't come on this trip.
This is my 3rd trip, and I've thoroughly enjoyed every one. What I like the most about the trips is we've always found some way to do science. These trips are not just like tourist trips. They're actually times when we can learn about, to me, very important environmental issues that affect the earth, and then we get to actually participate in moving science along in some way.
This week was really good and productive. I learned a lot, and we did a lot of things that I would have never even thought to do or had the resources to do on my own. And we were able to talk to a lot of people, like park rangers and professionals that knew their field, that could answer all of our questions, and it really helped me become more interested in the topics that I kind of came in being curious about.
On this trip, I learned a lot about how mountains were built. I now know a lot of the things about the rocks in the area that I never even would have given a thought to before. So that I really enjoyed, because it's stuff you wouldn't have on a normal trip, and I learned that you can do anything you want if you just set your mind to it. We went on a 7-mile hike on Highline Trail. The farther you go, the more of a challenge it is, the better the views are.
I came here with the intention of studying archaeology with Dr. Burchard. I've had an opportunity to sit through a great presentation that he did about archaeology, which I'll bring back a lot of information from that for my students. And also he gave me a data sheet tonight that he uses in the field to collect data, so I plan to use that because I'm helping my students set up an archaeology project at school. I have made such great connections with all the teachers on this trip. My roommate Beth, she and I have already been talking about ways to collaborate and maybe bring our classrooms together to help on like a newspaper project, which was something that we were just talking about last night. So I think there's possibility beyond what I originally thought for continuing with, collaborating with other teachers and certainly just meeting people, that work all over the state and has been really great.
The collaboration between Tim and I has been more than I expect. So it's helped me out educational-wise because oftentimes when I'm doing science, it's like, okay, how does this relate to science? Now I really want to go back and I want to say, okay, how can I relate this to science and history? And I'm hoping that in the future I can say, how can I relate this to science, history, math, and then, English, communication arts and stuff. That's kind of changed that whole spectrum with me. I would love to continue relationships with these teachers professionally, just for the simple fact that they're always going to have better ideas than me in some cases. And I feel like I may have some ideas that they can share in their classrooms. The collaboration is always going to be there with me.
I'll probably go on Science Center trips as long as they're offered. They're worry-free. You show up at the airport and after that, you just go along for the ride. The best hikes are scoped out, the best attractions are scoped out. A lot of stuff you normally wouldn't get to do, and I appreciate the fact that the Science Center goes out of their way to get all the specialists for us and just to make sure that we're seeing the best of what each park has to offer.
When we started the Science in National Park series, we just wanted people to explore the science of the park. However, we've been fortunate enough to provide unique experiences that they'll remember for the rest of their lives.